words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect His message. Amen. Barakalat Shem Yahweh. Anai Kofi, head of Servants of Christ. Mashalom Chi. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you. Appreciate your presence. Hopefully all is well with everybody. As you can see, still in the midst of traveling. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me on TikTok. My setup is a little bit where you guys are a little far away, so please forgive me. I'm not sure how much of the comments and stuff I'm going to be able to see today. But we thank you all for being on. Appreciate you. You can hear? All right, cool. So I want to talk about something tonight. And we thank you guys for being on. Are you able to see? Are you able to see? With all this nonsense? Okay. So I would like to talk about a situation that some of you may or may not know about with a particular person who is part of the diaspora and at the same time going through stuff that we go through in our diaspora. Somebody who's of fame, somebody who's gone through something that many of our people of fame go through quite often, and also something that is very pervasive in society and something that's used, as Psalm 123 talks about, to be something that causes us to be in scorn. I want to talk about Johnathan Majors. And I apologize once again. I probably won't be able to react to comments as much as I normally do, by the way, since we are on TikTok. Sometimes TikTok has an issue, even if I'm hands-free. It obviously not in control of the vehicle. TikTok sometimes still will try to take us off. A lot of times even people will come on and be like, oh, they're doing this while they're traveling. And so we get a ding against us if that happens. We'll try to go to the other TikTok channel, Kofi_43, and they stop that live session and say it's because you're traveling as well. I'm not going to keep doing it to where they don't let us come on for a week. If that's the purpose, if that's what happens, then we ask that you just be ready to go over to YouTube in advance. However, once again, I want to talk about Johnathan Majors. Now, a lot of you have heard about Johnathan Majors' situation. If you're not aware, if you don't, especially if you're not into the MCU, what is it, phase 4 or phase 5 or whatever they're on now, basically the stuff they started doing after the Avengers stuff stopped. Johnathan Majors, I believe he was also in the movie, not Rocky, but the one with Michael B. Jordan, that series. I think he was in number 3, the last one, and he was I know the father was in it originally, whatever his name is, and then it's called that because the son has the same name. What is his name? Creed. That's right, Creed. So he was in Creed 3, I believe. He was in MC Universe. He was Cain the Conqueror, and so as Cain the Conqueror, he had a certain vibe and the stuff he was supposed to be going through. He seemed like he probably got a little too big for his britches, and he was accused all of a sudden of basically, well, at first it was assaulting and a high level of assault. Those charges were not the ones they ultimately used against him, but assaulting and something else. His former girlfriend, who is a director of sorts, not a big time director, but a director of sorts on different movies and things that come out. And so basically he was accused of, assaulting her and abusive behavior and different things or whatever. And once again, his name, Johnathan Majors. And if you look up what happened with Johnathan Majors, you will discover very quickly that it was very much so confirmed from the beginning that it was apparent that even if he was a jerk, right? And I know abuse can be something that's more than just physical, right? But even if he was a jerk, what he was accused of was something that he wasn't guilty of. In his case, he actually had something that was above what everybody else had. He actually had video evidence, because what originally he was accused of was that there was a girl in the back of a vehicle with him, and basically she had said that he had beaten her at least And here's the wild part about it: that wasn't even her story at first. If you've paid attention to it, the police, when they got to her, when she had basically injured herself and called, she told them that she didn't remember calling them, didn't remember if anything had happened. She didn't think anything had been done to her. And as a matter of fact, it was the police that kept saying, if you watch the body cam footage, basically like just say he hit you or just say that he did something to you. So he, not only that, but you also have video where he was running away from her. Legit, literally, he was. If you want to see, I mean, it's not funny. It's terrible. It's terribly awful, to be honest, that we use words like that. However, it's maybe crazy, very out of bounds, very perverse, even if we want to use that word. When we know that there's evidence, there's literally videos you could watch where people have streamed together video after video after video of him running away from her, not for a block, right? That'd be one thing. Okay, he ran for a block. Maybe he ran for a couple minutes. No, there's video of him running from like one end of town to the other, like on foot, and her chasing him literally running away. Now, their relationship probably is toxic. There's probably a lot of other things. And could he have been verbally abusive? Possibly. Don't know. Could he have done this? Could he have done that? But as far as the things he was accused of, which is abusing her, putting his hands on her, beating her up. Matter of fact, there's evidence that she broke into his place and was found in the closet when he got to the house. And so the police were called to be able to say, "Hey, well, what's going on with this girl who broke in?" Like she and this person who said that he broke her finger. They also have footage of her at the club. And at the club, she's literally using her same broken fingers, high-fiving people, doing stuff like that. But she said it was too mangled to be able to use. So in his case, we literally have so much evidence to the contrary, and yet, crazy part is he was found guilty. Now, not found guilty of the stuff initially, the main two charges, but he was still found guilty. Now, this is something that in our community is not dumbfounding. It's unfortunately, it is a regularity, and it's consistent with the values of the United States corporation, which is that when it comes to Israel or anything that looks like Israel, you must go down. And if you think that you've gotten up, matter of fact, can I do this? I can't see people's comments the way we normally do. And thank you guys for being on. We once again give all honor and praise to the Most High. I'm not sure if I did this at the beginning. We give all honor and praise to the Most High for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who doesn't like to say but to be honored. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. And by the way, to the moderators, Minister Seth, SOC, thank you for being on. Bow down to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you're somebody who can't take honest dialogue, it's not going to be a regular conversation because I can't see you guys' comments because of the position that we're in the car and everything. So I can't see like I normally would. However, there's going to be dialogue, and we're going to be honest about a problem that people have with our diaspora, specifically in the United States corporation. And when it comes to people of fame, especially when you are dating somebody or going out with somebody, or are considered to have gotten with somebody who is of another diaspora who's a woman, right? In other words, we are going to discuss racism, and if that's going to be too much for you, you might not want to listen in to the rest of this for this evening. All right, because here's the problem with Johnathan Majors. Nobody wants. We can't speak about this, right, without actually getting into the fact that this is, when something happens, very rarely does something. Matter of fact, nothing happens in a vacuum. But very very rarely does something happen without there being any background or anything we can pull from to say what happened, right? This is not a random occurrence that's happened with Johnathan Majors. Johnathan Majors goes on the list of a Kanye West. Johnathan Majors goes on a list that he would join the ranks of Bill Cosby. Johnathan Majors goes on the list. And by the way, whether you feel these people are guilty or not, let's be honest, nobody cares about doing anything to these people until they start doing stuff with somebody of another race, so to speak, or they start making a certain amount of money, or they start doing something that's going to change the lives of people in their diaspora, right? So you're talking about Bill Cosby, you're talking about Kanye West, you're talking about Cuba Gooding Jr., you're talking about Puff Daddy, you're talking about R. Kelly. You're talking about, not maybe with women, but still Michael Jackson. You're talking about, I mean, there's a list that goes on and on and on to where you are not supposed to be somebody who makes it in society, and you're definitely not supposed to be somebody who goes above your pay grade when it comes to dating outside of your race, right? You're not supposed to, right? And we don't want to have that part of the conversation, but with Johnathan Majors, it's a necessary conversation. Many would try to call it a necessary evil. I would call it necessary righteousness to point out the evil, because we have Johnathan Majors, who is this brother who's made now once again, you know, all of a sudden out of nowhere. I know we want to act like Disney or Marvel or nobody was involved, even though they didn't want him to actually start making money off of the stuff, and they didn't want him to, he had signed a contract that said they couldn't do certain things without him in it and things of that nature, and so it was easiest to get rid of him. Nobody wants to talk about that either. And by the way, Disney being scared of him, I said this to my wife earlier when we were listening to some stuff and talking about this. I said I'm going to be consistent on this, that Disney is the same company that before they knew that even if you don't think Johnny Depp was 100% in the clear, obviously, if he's losing his finger, if he's getting beat down, if he's like dealing with stuff, and Amber Heard is saying some stuff that's random, and they didn't even care if it didn't make sense back then. They just went ahead and canceled his stuff, and so did the people who do Harry Potter stuff and all that stuff. Everybody just got rid of him, right? Without going into, so I'm not going to be inconsistent. If they did that to Johnny Depp, I can't just claim this is because at least the Hollywood did this only because of the color of his skin. Did it help to enforce this? Because you can't have a black guy who's getting in trouble for supposedly, allegedly laying down. I'll keep saying allegedly. They're going to say that he's guilty now, but allegedly laying down with this girl or forcing this girl, not even doing that, forcing this girl or hurting this girl or hitting this girl, right? The way that it's described. This is, if that's what's going to happen, right? If that's what they're saying happened, or that's what they're saying went on, then you got to go, okay, right? Like, then if they did it to Johnny Depp before they realized that they were wrong, if they did it to Johnathan Majors, who's not even on Johnny Depp's level, if we be honest, right? Not even close. So I can't say this is just straight racism. This is corporations being afraid, but obviously other people being into racism and the system of oppression obviously helps influence this decision. But I can't just say straight up, this is as simple as he was black, she was white, so Disney kicked him out, or Marvel kicked him out, or whoever in that company would have kicked him out. We can't say that, right? We have to be consistent. We got to be honorable, right? However, we can know clearly that Johnathan Majors did not put his hands on this girl. Matter of fact, here's the interesting thing about it, right? Johnathan Majors, not only did he not put his hands on the girl, not only do we have video evidence, but we know what they actually wrote down with his decision. This is the interesting part. I didn't know this until today. That apparently, and I just heard about this, I think, yesterday, but I didn't know this until today, that apparently when they wrote out what they finished, when they said, okay, we're done, this is what happened, and they write out, why they said he was guilty. They said he was not guilty of attacking her or assaulting her. They said he was actually guilty of not doing his best to make sure that he didn't harm her while trying to protect himself. Right? I want you to hear this again, right? The hypocrisy in this. They said he was not guilty of assaulting her. Matter of fact, they had to take away the assault charge they were really trying to get him with from the beginning, because it was very clear that she was lying and that the police were lying and that we had evidence of that. But they kept up with it to make sure they could get him on something. And what did they say? They said ultimately one of the things they got him on, very small things that he probably might get, hopefully gets a slap on the wrist on. He'd probably be able to do some home, like have the ankle bracelet on and stuff like that, and do, have to stay in his home or whatever. But this is the reality. They said that he was not guilty of the assault, but he was guilty of not making sure that he was better while protecting himself, that he wasn't better at making sure he didn't harm her at all. Which means that he was basically found guilty of protecting himself.
While being attacked.
Right. And while being attacked, by protecting himself, he didn't make sure that she had no harm when he protected her. Now, he didn't knock her out, which, by the way, he had just finished doing what movie did we just talk about? Creed 3. Creed 3, he training to be a boxer. And if you look in Creed 3, the man had muscle mass. All right. So this is somebody who knows how to box, knows how to protect themselves. His natural instinct after boxing lessons is going to be the counterpunch. And what does he do? He takes all that stuff in stride. He runs away from her. See, she goes do her own thing with her friends and stuff. He gets back to his house, and then she's inside his house.
Didn't in the court records it say that she was harmed grabbing his coat and she hurt herself on one of his buttons?
That's part of what they said. Yeah, I'm not. I'd have to go back and read that part before I can say 100% yes or no. But stuff like that, yeah, they put stuff in there, and it's very clear. But once again, what was his punishment? His punishment was not even on paper. His punishment was not assault. What was his punishment? Hey, you basically protected yourself. And if now this is where moderators just help me out tonight, people. If you're on, if you never heard me before, and if you're just making an assumption, up here goes this black guy with this type of hair, and he's wearing an ankh, and or Ethiopian cross or a tav, and here he is about to do this, and he got on some precious metals or whatever, and now we're about to get into a place to where we know exactly what's about to happen. He's about to be racist. No. And if you can't handle that tonight, you gotta deal with it. But this is one you gotta take on the chin, because this is part of a culture. When we're speaking on Johnathan Majors tonight, we're speaking on a culture, right? And I'm just putting this out there. I don't have the views and stuff or the pull that some people do or whatever that are not putting up. But look, I'm just being honest with you. We need to just be honest. This is a culture of people who are trying to put you into a place of scorn, right? Who are filling you with contempt, as Psalm 123 says, right? And once you are filled with contempt, because they need to be at ease with you being scorned, with you having nothing. And anytime it's assumed that you're going to do something that puts you on a higher pedestal, or in this case, not only put you on a higher pedestal, but also puts you in a league that they don't want you in, as far as you get I'll just say it the way it is. Moderators, hopefully you got me, right? Some of y'all going to be upset. It is what it is. Johnathan Majors, ultimately, part of what happened to him is he got caught up with white tears, right? He was in a relationship with a white woman, wasn't supposed to be. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter how rich and famous you are, doesn't matter how rich and famous she is not. You got in this relationship with her. Now, all of a sudden, here you are being with her, trying to do stuff or whatever. You out of pocket. And on top of that, now, she crying. And she's hurt. And the police come, and she says, and even if she wasn't, even though it was a very toxic relationship, apparently, both of them were going back and forth. And we'll talk about that aspect of it too, right? Because I did hear some stuff today, and it made a lot of sense. If you're dealing with a toxic relationship, you got to make sure that especially when you start getting to certain levels, you can't be bringing toxicity with you. Now, if you're married, that's one thing, but toxicity in certain ways or whatever, especially with the stuff that's going back and forth between them, even in the way that they handled it, even with him getting in a position where he's going to be running from somebody or having to wrestle for a phone and do this, this is obvious and apparent that they were both in a relationship for whatever reason. That wasn't something that was worthy of where he was going, or where she said she was claiming was going. Who knows, right? I don't want to make this so one-sided, but somebody's going to be part of a case study today to show us a consistency in humanity, so to speak.
She had the power of WWT, weaponized white tears.
Yeah, she had the power of the WWT, weaponized white tears. So when we talk about Johnathan Majors and stuff, once again, I'm not even going to get into whether he was a great person or she was a great person. In this case study tonight, I don't care. I apologize if that means that you're saying I'm not doing a great work at it tonight. I really don't care if they were great people or not, because here's something that you need to recognize, is that we have been taught to automatically believe the white tears before our own people as well, right? We have been taught this. Real talk. So what do I mean by that? For example, here is, like, watch this. We were talking about this earlier today too. Tiger Woods lost his wife, gets a divorce. Most of us were like, yeah, okay, whatever, you deserve it. You combination, you're not black, you're not this or that or whatever. And I said, hold up. I said, I never thought about it until today that not one time do that whole thing, because it was all, oh, well, you don't like us, you by yourself, this and that, whatever. Not one time did I say to myself, didn't he get assaulted?
Me either.
Right? Not one time. right? Maybe some of y'all did. I knew he got assaulted. That's not what I'm saying, or I was aware of it. I'm saying I didn't think about the fact that, look, as much as you might think that you need to be able to do this, as much as you say if somebody did this, I would do. Look, if you found out that your spouse was cheating on you, it is not lawful for you to beat them to a point to where they're in the emergency room and then in the hospital for a couple weeks, and that they can't even play golf anymore.
She could have killed him.
Right now, you could say she could have, and somebody might say, "Well, he deserved blah blah." Look, that's a whole nother. If you feel he deserved it, I'm talking about law, right? Let's talk about law, because if who Gary Owens, is that his name? The comedian, the white comedian, Gary something, whatever his name is, right? Who always makes sure that he makes money off of us, and now is making money off of us while downing one of our sisters, and who was basically doing the whole, okay, I'll go ahead and play my role, and I'll kind of be your place slave and do this, and I have your babies, and I'll tell everybody that we're the example of what a mixed race couple is and all this stuff. And now all of a sudden here it is, he won't take care of her nor take care of her children correctly, right? Now, I'll step off that, because you know what? I don't know all the particulars of the financial stuff, how the court is handling it, what is actually being there, whatever. But it's very clear that this person who's making sure that he's making money off the diaspora, and he made money off of being able to talk about his experience as far as being invited to the cookout through marriage, is now somebody that is doing what he's doing. But if Gary Owens, whether he was cheating, whether he just was done, it seems like he was cheating and was done, and she didn't really know to the level he was done. But let's just say she caught him. She didn't, as far as I know. But let's just say she caught him in the act of cheating. Lawfully, she can't take a baseball bat, right, and just start beating him up, bust the windows of his car while he's in there, hit him upside the head and stuff, and have it to where he can't walk. He got to go to the emergency room, and he can't do a comedy show for a few months. Charges will be brought against her, right? Right. However, Tiger Woods, billionaire, golfer extraordinaire, been famous since he was in his teenage years, really since he was 2-3 years old. They were putting recordings of him out there where his father was teaching him golf, right? Won championships when he was in college, won championships as the youngest person to be there. At one point looked like he was going to break the record to have the most majors ever. He's not going to, more than likely, in his life, even if he wins probably one more. But at the end of the day, he's still considered by many to be the greatest golfer of all time. And yet, he married who? Babysitter, Swedish woman,
Maid.
White woman, maid, and him and the maid get married. And by the way, we shouldn't even trip off status. I'm just introducing to you, because somebody's going to use it as an argument. Well, this person, that person, well, you're trying to come down on a little person. No. What I'm trying to show you is that you could have this black sister over here, faithful wife, doing stuff, demeaning herself, and trying to say, no, it's all in the vein of, I need to make sure that my family's taken care of and that we're a great example if we get past racism. Here you have another woman who is just the maid, I guess, tickles the fancy or whatever, or is a great housewife, while Tiger's out here getting whatever on, and she probably seeing it as the maid, but in her mind, okay, I guess he's gonna settle down with her, and she ends up being one of the ones of many that he's having. He just adds it to the list, and so her response is she's gonna basically beat her husband up, and everybody had no problem with it. We were trained so well to hate Tiger Woods. Even if you don't think that he's us, at the end of the day, he found out he's still trying to be Asian and say, hey, I'm going back to my Eastern roots. I'm not saying he's not Asian at all, but hopefully you hear what I'm saying. He didn't say, I'm going to go back to like what my father taught me. I'm going back to the word. I'm going back to prayer. I'm going back to what it is to be around my folk and this and that. He said, no, I'm going to go back to my Asian roots, things that had to be centered and grounded, right? Because you got to still stay away from being black. And how did he get back in the graces of the people? How did he get back in great graces? Now everybody loves him, and now everybody looking at him and his son play golf. And his son is actually great. His son might turn out to be better than him, which is wild, right? His son already is a young teenage boy, I guess, is doing marvelous things on the golf course already with his father. It's awesome to see. That being said, right, what did Tiger Woods have to do to get back in the graces of all these folk? Start winning and be humble, which means what? Make white people all right. Right? You remember Kobe Bryant? right, does something that all basketball players do. I won't say all. That's strong. A lot of basketball players do, right? A lot of sports people do. They cheat on their wife. Sorry, once again, I backed off all. If there's somebody who plays sports professionally that never sees this at some point, please realize I backed off what I was saying. A little strong, right? But a lot of them cheat on their wives, right? Matter of fact, don't talk about baseball. Baseball is notorious for people having multiple families, especially if you got somebody who's Dominican and somebody who's in the United States, and then somebody who goes, who was it? Cologne, the kind of heavy set pitcher, whatever, and everybody still loves to see him run around the bases and stuff like that when he hits a home run. He's, the happy chubby fellow and all that stuff. And that man, it's known he had two families, came out, but he pitches really well and he can hit home runs from time to time, right? Because they don't really care about your family, but they'll bring it out for certain people, right? Kobe Bryant, he had a wife. By the way, I know some people are going to say, well, she's Latina. She's a sister, right? I know you don't want to hear that. And she did things that, she doesn't identify with the whiteness as much as I guess what we've been taught, other Latinas have been taught, right? So she is more a sister, right? I give her credit where credit is due, and that's how she lives. That's how she moves. That's how she operated. Kobe ends up cheating on her, though. Let's keep it a buck, right? And Kobe Bryant, what happened? He cheated. Many people cheat, but all of a sudden, he's accused of that R word, right? And he's accused of this SA, right, against this woman. And in this SA case, he's sitting up there going through all this stuff, going through it or whatever. And what does he do? He comes out, he says, look, man, I cheated, I got caught, I'm ashamed. He said, and he went out there, bought that $4 million, like it was, what was it, $4 million ring or whatever it was, and put it on her finger. And I guess they had whatever talk they needed to, and they were like, okay, we're gonna be in lockstep, even if I can't stand you behind the scenes. She said, all right, I'm in it, whatever. Okay, you're gonna make this better, and at least in public, she played a role, and she played it better than what she needed to. Because to be honest, she could have got a divorce and taken all the stuff there, right? It was because he was in the wrong, and where he was, and it could have made him look even worse, right? So I got to give respect where respect's due. When somebody say, "Well, Kobe's wife," and blah, no, Kobe's wife is somebody we got to kind of excuse from a lot of stuff that we would try to put on this type of person. That being said, the woman that he's with is one of the many that he's cheating with at the time. And what did they try to accuse? They tried to say that he SA'd her, and the reality is that she was somebody that was afraid that her parents would find out. And when they started asking questions, instead of saying that, I had, relations with Kobe Bryant, instead it turned into he SA'd me and forced me to be with him. Right? Now, and all that being said, a whole bunch of people couldn't stand him and this and that, right? And you have your right to feel however you want. I have no heaven to hell to put anybody in, but I get it. Here's this person that was at the time still trying to act like Michael Jordan. Remember, y'all thought Michael Jordan was wholesome and all that, and didn't know he was cheating on his wife, and that he was kind of a jerk and he was kind of an a-hole, and so he still is. But you guys give him what you guys call an a-hole. I don't really use. I'm trying not to use that term for people, but that's what people thought of him behind the scenes, but everybody still gave him love because they make money off of him, and hey, he could dunk a basketball, and hey, Republicans buy sneakers too, and all this different stuff that he was saying. So we gave him the benefit of the doubt. Kobe Bryant, y'all forget, not only had he studied Michael on the court, he also studied Michael off the court. Kobe doesn't start being somebody who starts cursing and doing all this other stuff and Mamba mentality and all the stuff that y'all love. He doesn't start doing that until after he got caught, because before that he was trying to be squeaky clean. And he kept on trying to be squeaky clean, but he realized y'all weren't going to give him that anymore. So he was like, well, bump it then. I'll just be myself. And he actually discovered him. So whether you like what he discovered or not, he discovered himself, or what he thought to be himself, right? And what was happening, why was everybody mad at him? Everybody wasn't mad at him about infidelity. Everybody's mad supposedly because he SA, but what was the cry? Kobe, you did that to that white girl. And the white girl, she cried, and she cried to her parents. And so we're going to make sure that we accuse him of something that he didn't do. And that ultimately we find out that wasn't there.
I remember that case with Kobe Bryant and the girl, I think it was in Colorado. It was one of those western states, and they found, I don't know if this is like attacking her character or anything, but when they did the kit,
they
kit,
found a whole bunch of different
well,
sperm.
yeah, 6 different, samples from 6 different men on her, or inside of her.
Yeah.
At that time.
So but once again, what was the goal was we got to punish him. Why? Because you got with a white woman. That's that was one of the things. You're getting too big in your britches. You're already making a bunch of money, right? You already got with somebody that looks white, but she ain't really white. Okay, well, girl, but then you get with this white girl, and then on top of that, and this is stuff. See, once again, I was talking about the culture of this. This Johnathan Majors thing can't be put outside of culture, because how is it that you were able to burn Wilmington, North Carolina to the ground in 1898? You're able to burn Wilmington, North Carolina to the ground, to a place where there's still stuff in Wilmington that's just lots, empty lots till this day, that they still haven't put anything in there because they did that much damage to the city, right? Still to this day, that means over 100, right? 120 plus years, right? Because we're going from 1898. So 1998 was 100. That was a century. Still, there are empty lots in Wilmington, North Carolina. We still don't know how many people were off. We still don't know where some of the remains are. We know people ran into cemeteries and had to live in cemeteries for a little while because they were afraid that somebody was going to come looking for them, right? How do you do that? Guess what? Look back in history. All you had to do was say, not even have evidence that there was somebody. All you had to do was say, hey, these black men are going to get your white women. You burn down a city. How do you do that to Rosewood, Florida, right? All you got to do is say, these black men can come at your white women. You burn down a neighborhood. How do you do that to Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, right? How do you literally drop the bomb on them? All you got to do is say, in an elevator, there was a white woman in there with a black guy. Till this day, by the way, like that Black-ish thing that y'all saw, if you saw the episode that kind of was popular for a while, where there's that scene that everybody thinks is funny, but everybody, black men especially, know it's really real, with the little white girls in the elevator, like, and they start, and the guy won't go in there, and 2 other guys show up to work. They're like, I won't go in there. They talk to the father, and Anthony Anderson's wife, Diana Ross's daughter, or whatever, who plays her character, Tracy Ross. She's not going to go in. Or she's saying they're monsters and this and that. And her father, Lawrence Fishburne plays her father, and her father's like, oh, I'm glad you didn't go in there. I remember my first little white girl in the elevator, and it's like a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, till this day, like, I don't feel comfortable with a white woman in an elevator. But I learned a long time ago that you're not supposed to do that, right? Like, I've seen it. I've seen people who I'm well, I won't say friends with, friendly with, growing up, get in trouble for just being in the presence. Right? Like, afraid. If I see a little white child or whatever, I'll try to help them as best I can, but I'm not really trying to, like, be seen just holding their hand, because there's people who literally adopt or babysit or are friends with the family and take children and stuff, and police are pulling them over and beating them up in front of the children. We've seen that happen the last couple of years. This is a culture, right? Johnathan Majors, and this is where it gets tricky, because I have to be careful. Once again, those of you who know my heart, you already know I'm not anti-white just because of the color of your skin, right? But we got to have a real conversation about this culture that you're in, about this United States corporative culture that is consistent in its enticement of us falling in love with something that they say makes us better, and then once we as this diaspora, we think we're getting better by leveling up, so to speak. As soon as you level up, they don't like the fact that you leveled up, and now here they come for you. Sometimes even putting you on trees or milk cartons, right? And it doesn't matter your age. Ask Emmett Till's mom, who, by the way, what happened to his accuser? She lived a long life. Now, I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in, so I'm not going to the level that some people did, where they say they hope she went to whatever. I hope that she asked the Most High for forgiveness and realized that she was wrong. Because if not, whoa, there's a consequence for every action in her life. She couldn't go anywhere. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't be anywhere. She actually hoped and tried to play it to where people thought that she had passed away. and people found out she was still alive. And they started coming and looking for her and knocking on her door and all this stuff. She had to move for the rest of her life. And some people say, hey, she deserves it. Not my place to say whether she did or she didn't. All I'm saying is, hey, I'll be consistent with the word of Yah. Prayerfully, she got a relationship with the Most High, and she asked for forgiveness. And if she did, hopefully she forgave herself, even though that doesn't bring him back. And ultimately, though, that's the thing is, we're talking about Johnathan Majors' career possibly not coming back. But what about how many people who go through Johnathan Majors likes things every day and their life doesn't come back? Right? We got to speak on a culture. Right? We got to keep the same energy for a culture that we live in, for a society that we live in that has people arguing that Johnathan Majors deserves to be made guilty of a crime, even though we have evidence to the contrary, not just a little bit, but too much evidence to the contrary, so much so that they didn't find him guilty of assault, they found him guilty of defending himself from assault.
That's crazy.
Like at some point we got to, like, that's crazy. That's cognitive dissonance at a level exponentially past, surpassing anything that many of you have ever gone through, to the point to where your mind's probably blown, right? Like, how, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not. I'm thinking it's not that blown, because I remember the case. I don't know the girl's name, but she was a teenage girl who was being essayed by an older white man for years. She killed him or offed him and escaped, and she was charged with murder for escaping her someone who had imprisoned her and repeatedly brutalized her for years.
Amen. Amen. Right. This is the society we live in. Right, where that is acceptable behavior, and so much so. And watch this: the woman who chased him down the street, the woman who lied. Matter of fact, she didn't even lie. At first, she said, "I don't even know what happened," and the police said, "Just say that he hit you." Right? The woman who said she broke her finger in many pieces and used that same finger to be able to do stuff all night long at the club and with her friends. No cast on, no, ouch, it hurts when I touch something. The same woman who is still making movies while Johnathan Majors was being said, well, we're going to sit you to the side. And Disney didn't really want to use him anyway, so they kind of started giving up evidence to, oh, you know, he was a jerk in other relationships, as if him being a jerk is grounds for him, you know, being said that he is somebody who assaults women. Right? And that's another thing, too. I don't think, now remember, I said, I'm not going to attack Disney and say that Disney is in fact racist, because they did the same thing to Johnny Depp. But here's something, this is part of a culture. Watch this. I brought up another person when we were having a conversation earlier. Some of you know this person, some of you don't. I'm going to bring up somebody named Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, playing football, at least he was, until he got injured. And they really messed him over in Cleveland and did him dirty in almost the same manner. Right? But they do this in sports all the time. Deshaun Watson was accused of SAing multiple women in Houston, and then they said he was doing the same thing in Clemson, right? Problem with this is, though, is that nobody ever asked yourself, hey, did anybody know Deshaun Watson was doing this? Now, I'm saying allegedly doing this, first of all. It's for educational purposes only, right? He allegedly did this, number one. But number two, I'm asking that question because, you know, there's nothing, like, watch this. Some of you remember, I can't remember his name, Anthony Hernandez, tight end, played for the New England Patriots, got in trouble for offing somebody or whatever, and then they finally caught up to him, whatever, and come to find out he was doing that since he was in possibly high school, definitely college. Was already doing that, doing gang life, stuff like that, and he got caught up with basically offing somebody, you know, in the gang life stuff while he was with the New England Patriots. He was playing on the other side of Gronk. Patriots were lining up, 2 tight end sets, all that stuff. Some of you know what I'm talking about. If not, just hang in there. I promise you I'll make it make sense, right? But Hernandez, is it Robbie Hernandez? I can't remember his name. Aaron Hernandez, thank you. Aaron Hernandez. He ends up offing himself, supposedly, off himself in prison. Who knows? But what I want you to look at is this. Aaron Hernandez was under Urban Meyer at Florida, playing football for the Florida Gators, right? I don't remember if they were winning championships when Aaron Hernandez was there, but probably were if Urban Meyer's there, right? At least with making the college football championships, or if they didn't have the championships yet, they were always number one, number two, number three, something like that. Aaron Hernandez, it was already known that he was offing people, but they wanted to win so much, who cared? Like Florida knew this. Do you know that the NFL, before they go ahead and bring all these people in and they make them take the test and they ask them questions, they hire either people who still work for or formerly worked for and now are private and work in private, but private like private eyes and stuff. They hire former FBI, CIA, reconnaissance people, military members, etc., and even get information from stuff from their colleges, from their families. They have people in their families that rat them out about certain things, and they'll pay the family members a little bit of chump change so that they'll give stuff away so that they can know every aspect of the person they're going to hire. Because look, for example, if you're going to get a quarterback and you're going to pay that man $100 million in 4 or 5 years, you might want to know everything about that man. Now, I'm not saying it's right to spy, but I'm just saying this is how they operate. This is how they think. If I'm going to pay you a rookie, I'm going to pay your first 4 years and then give you an optional fifth. And I'm going to have it, I'm going to have it set up where you're going to get, $20 million a year, $25 million a year. I don't know what the limit is. It used to be they would pay you like you were an experienced quarterback already your first year. Now they move back on that because you get some people that end up being busts. But let's say they're going to give you 20 year. They're going to give you 20. Let's say they give you 25 million a year for 4 years straight. They're going to give you 100 million in 4 years, and then they give you an option for the fifth year, which means that you can say, or they can say, we want to go ahead and give you a fifth year, or we don't think that you're great anymore. Thank you so much. But guaranteed, they got to give you, out of that, maybe let's say 10 million of it's guaranteed. So they're on the hook. They have to give you $40 million, right? And if you play 4 years, they got to give you 100 million. And if you make it an extra year, you're great enough to where even if they doubt you're going to be around that long, but they want to give you one more year to see, then they got to pay you 125 million total. So what do? They say, okay, we'll pay this private eye 20,000, 30,000. That's chump change compared to that, right? To see, is this person worth? And then they started asking questions. Like one guy, they got mad one year. Some of y'all might remember this. I don't remember who the player was. One year, everybody got really upset because come to find out, they found out that his mom was a prostitute. So somebody just straight up, or was at one point in her life, I don't know if she was at the time. So they basically were like, yo, like, what's up with your mom prostitute? And just asked them. And some people were mad, but other people were like, yo, they're going to give you this much money. I'm going to ask every question I want. Now, is that right? No, but I'm just trying to show you the level that they know, right? Deshaun Watson, it was already known. By the way, he wasn't. The women have come out since. They won't say this in public because ESPN is, Disney, NFL, all these people are in bed together, right? So they can't go back on how they made this man look bad. But they won't tell you that Deshaun Watson, literally the accusers, the ones that you were told, and some of you, a couple of their names. For the most part, you don't really know any of their names. But there were these main ones, and you saw pictures of them start to come out and everything. And guess what? All of them have basically said, yeah, he didn't do what they said. Some of them have even said they were paid to come out and say that he said that he did this atrocity to them, right? And here's the deal. The Houston, I'm sorry, I'm trying to say Houston Oilers. Y'all know that's old school right there. That's Tennessee Titans, but the Houston Oilers, the Houston Texans. Their organization didn't start, they knew about this stuff. Matter of fact, the organization helped pay, allegedly. So our organization helped pay to get him to, to get these girls to come over and give him these massages that now they're saying that was him bringing these girls over to SA. And so they were the ones, because they knew that he had a habit from college. Part of his payment, college players get paid in different ways. Now it's illegal to pay him millions of dollars. Before, you couldn't pay him millions of dollars for all those years. Remember, they had to hide everything they gave him. So Deshaun Watson, part of his payment was the other way. It was like, yeah, go ahead and make sure that my man, get that happy ending at the end of his massage. What they were doing for him. That's part of what they did, to make life great for him on campus. And, while they probably didn't have to do too much working class and stuff like that either. That's how it goes when you're a certain level player, right? So Houston did the same thing for him. It wasn't until Deshaun Watson started basically kind of putting it out there that y'all, y'all kind of racist and you guys don't allow me to make decisions. And he said, I'm out. I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me, especially after they gave that young N-word that big contract. And all of a sudden, next thing you knew, while he was looking for a trade, and they kept saying, you're going to play, you're going to play. He's like, no, I'm not going to play. And they said, there'll be consequences. Not all of a sudden, he was a RAPIST. Kind of like some people say, oh no, you're making excuses for him. I bring up Exhibit B. What about Allen Iverson? You remember when all of a sudden he didn't want to practice? We're talking about practice, and they started saying, he doesn't like showing up to practice. He wasn't somebody who shows up to practice, sure, but when you have that interview, that wasn't about practice. He had lost a friend of his, and so he's sitting up there in the interview, and you get one clip of it, and they put that all over the place, and here it is that his friend, he just lost, and he's like, I put my heart, blood, sweat, and tears into the city, into this game. I go on the court. I'm the smallest guy out there, yet I'm trying to go against the Shaquille O'Neals of the world and stuff like that. My friends just passed away. Life is more serious than basketball. And yeah, I don't show up to practice at all, but right now, that's the time. Practice. You were talking about practice. Go watch the whole interview. Some of you have never watched it. Go watch the entire interview. He's not talking about practice only. But what did they put on ESPN? While you love Stuart Scott, and hey, wherever he is, may he rest. Prayerfully, may he rest in the arms of the Most High. You love Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was out there telling you how Allen Iverson was bad, and Stephen A. Smith was telling you how this makes him look bad. And this person was saying, that person was saying, everybody was telling you how terrible he was because Michael Wilbon out there. Some of y'all call him the Godfather, right? Used to work for the Washington Post. I'm very familiar with Michael Wilbon. I used to read all his columns every day, every weekday. I used to look forward to seeing what he and Tony Kornheiser wrote. A lot of y'all don't know they actually used to write in newspapers and stuff. That was their main gig before they became popular on television, on podcasts. So I'm very familiar with both of them, but especially Michael Wilbon. He's somebody who's very respected in our community. Even though he's from Chi-Town, has another house in Arizona, but he was living in DC for a lot of the year for many, many years. And but yeah, all these people came against him. You know why? Because that was the goal, was to make Allen Iverson look bad. If you want to get money, or if you want to get like another opportunity to get certain information behind the scenes, guess what? You're gonna fall in line and you're gonna make him look bad. That's a regular, recurring occurrence. Y'all didn't think anything was bad about who's somebody? Well, okay. Was it known that Brett Favre was doing a lot of shady stuff in Mississippi for a long time? Sure, nobody cared. Now all of a sudden he's not in the NFL or whatever. Okay, we'll let it come out. He kind of got us in a pinch anyways. We'll let it come out that he's been stealing money from people who should be getting food stamps in Mississippi so that he could use the money to build a volleyball court, volleyball stadium for his daughter. Right? But nobody cared at the time. It was known Brett Favre was cheating on his wife and was sending, he was too old to be on a cell phone, like, especially when cell phones first came out. Old folk didn't know how to use them, right? And he was sitting up there, forgive my language, I can't say my son's guy. He was sending out D-pics and got caught sending out D-pics. And that was when he was in the New York Jets that season. And they showed who it was. They said it was this. They were like, yeah, that's basically SA. That's basically like how it was going to be looked at or whatever. And what happened to him legally? How much jail time did he do? Did it go to court? Right? This is a regular thing. So when we talk about Johnathan Majors, right, you got to comprehend that there's all these people that I can bring up where we see that this is a regular thing in life. And I'm bringing up a lot of sports stuff, probably because I'm most familiar with it. But let's be honest. We talk about Weinstein. How many people had Weinstein messed with before people finally cared? And why did they start caring, by the way? We still don't know because they won't put out that list. Or is it Epstein? There's Weinstein and Epstein. Is Weinstein the one that's still alive?
Weinstein's alive.
And Epstein's okay. So Weinstein... Allegedly, yeah. So Weinstein is, he went to his resort and they called it jail. And Epstein is gone. Supposedly, he took his own life, even though he had like stuff on everybody, whatever. And they still won't let that list out, by the way. We know names on the list. Interestingly enough, we know some of the lists and we know some of the names, but they won't give you that whole list. And they won't give you what times they came in, dates, all that. They'll just say, oh, you know. But we know, and some of them are people that are in our diaspora that we keep caping up for. We don't want to talk about it, but some of them, they're going to hit close to home. It's going to come out. Darkness comes to light. At some point, you're going to be able to go back and see. Really, it's already there. But you got to ask yourself, even with that, who are the people that are preventing that from coming out? There's a culture.
To your point of there being a culture, maybe one of the reasons why you keep bringing up sports stars is that black men who are powerful with money often are in just a couple industries, predominantly, sports, music,
entertainment,
sports and entertainment. Well, entertainment period.
Mm-hmm.
Dance for me.
Yeah. And that's something that we don't talk about as well. That's the culture, right? And how many people are built up, and look, whether you think P. Diddy did what he did to children or whatever, or to men or to women and all this stuff, at the end of the day, nobody in the whole industry cared. Is something that we gotta have a conversation about. We gotta be honest. We gotta be honest about. Nobody cared that these little boys. Nobody cared about supposedly, allegedly, Jermaine Dupri and Chris Cross. Allegedly, right? Allegedly, nobody cared about Usher and Puff Daddy, right? Allegedly, nobody cared. Matter of fact, I don't even know this is alleged anymore. Nobody cared about Aaliyah. Age ain't nothing but a number. R. Kelly right there on the album cover behind her, leaning against the wall the same way that he would when people were getting out of school in high school in Chicago. And he was leaning against the gate there.
Were they married?
Yeah, they were married.
She was like 13?
I guess legally. I guess. I don't even know. I guess they were legally married. You could marry in different places, so they probably went to a state where she could be married, because supposedly they were legally married. Right? And nobody says anything about the fact Dame Dollar's coming to her defense and, oh yeah, we just grew to be friends and this and that or whatever. Dame, if you're talking about right after she was with R. Kelly and didn't want to be with Jay-Z, she still was a minor. And Dame's like, but I'm going to be her champion. Dame, you was messing with a little girl too. And if you wasn't messing with her, right? Now he says he wasn't involved with the stuff when it came to R. Kelly, and that him and Jay-Z had already parted ways. But y'all, we forget Jay-Z, who tried to act like he gonna part ways. He was messing with Aaliyah too, but Aaliyah didn't really want to be with him for a long time, so he got upset about that. That's part of the reason him and Dave started beefing, apparently. Or that was a small. I don't know how big a part it was, but apparently both. Well, at least Dave will admit that was part of their beef. But also, Jay-Z goes right after that and remember, him and R. Kelly made a whole album together. How quickly we forget. They made a whole album together. And then all of a sudden stuff started coming out and it started getting heavy, and now all of a sudden Jay-Z like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You did you was messing with the girl he was married to, and you did an album with him. And then when that girl passes away on the plane crash, I won't even get into what some of you might call conspiracy theory. I'll leave that there. When she ends up passing away due to the plane crash, she doesn't make it through that. All of a sudden, what happens? Who come up next? The young, underage Beyonce. Y'all remember people were saying when Beyonce was still a teenager, they were like, oh, this it seems like her and Jay-Z might have something going on. Y'all act like she was 30 years old. There's a culture that goes on, right? That's now people know about that. People knew about that, and they knew that stuff was going on, and a lot of those people have not been held accountable. And now R. Kelly, finally gets, and R. Kelly's mad when R. Kelly's crying out and saying, man, they messing with me, they messing my life up, and he's crying to y'all or whatever. He's not saying that because he's innocent. He's saying that because y'all treated me like I was innocent all these years. How you gonna come now? And even though he's not righteous and it's icky and it's disgusting, I'm gonna be honest with you. Can we be honest? We're just being honest today, right? He got a point. Wyclef Jean and Lauryn Hill. As a matter of fact, ain't nobody done nothing about that. I don't know if Wyclef's still with his wife, he was married to at the time, but nobody done nothing about that. Nobody said anything about the fact, right, that she's found a way to get over, and they still perform together from time to time. But nobody comes out and just like, yeah, we should have protected Lauryn Hill. Matter of fact, in my mind, because she was so much treated like an adult, I keep forgetting that she's not like really that much older than me. But in my mind, I thought of her as being like 30. In my young days, I thought she was like 15 years older than me, because that's how we had it presented, right? We don't protect our own, and the society doesn't want us to get to certain levels, and they dang sure don't want us to make sure that we're messing with their women or their society. And we have to ask ourselves a question too: who's the one that put? Is it us? Now let's just be honest. Who put on Johnathan Majors? Was it us or them? Right? Who put on? Who put on Jay-Z? Was it us or them? I know y'all. Well, no, Jay-Z, he worked his tip. No, Jay-Z. Somebody had to let him in, right? Who put on hip hop? We created hip hop, but hip hop's not even yours anymore. We created it in the '60s, but you're not in charge of it. Dr. Dre is not in charge of his own music. Don't believe the hype, right? He still reports to people. Go look it up, right? Eminem got to handle it too. He white, but he still go to a certain group of people to make sure his music comes out. He ain't got that big yet because he can't outgrow the system. They feed into it. The people who got bigger than the system, they took them out. They took Prince and Michael away from y'all, kind of sort of back to back. They spread it out just a little bit, and they told you before they were doing it. They kept putting it out there saying Prince is hiding music from the world. He won't sell it. Y'all remember? Does anybody remember that? Am I crazy? Somebody tell me if I'm not making sense, right? I can't read your comments like that tonight anyway. But I'm just saying, maybe I'm just crazy. But I remember before Prince passed away, everybody kept saying he's got this fault, and people are coming at him, and they've been asking him to do this, and he won't give them the music, and he won't give them the music, and people are like, he needs to get the music to the community, he needs to get the music to society. People need to know his music and stuff. You know who they're gonna come after in a little bit? He's been playing both sides of the fence very well, so he's being allowed to move around and stuff. You know who they're gonna come around for, and we're not even gonna see it coming because we don't look for it. You know who got a big vault of music and stuff too, and a lot of people don't know stuff that he's put out there. He probably makes like 2 or 3 songs a night. Lil Wayne. Watch. He got a whole bunch of stuff, and somebody gonna want it. They're gonna want to make money off it, and he's not gonna give it to him. And it's gonna be a matter of time. Now he's still involved in the system. Though. He's still locked in. So who knows? Maybe he'll never try to be free all the way. But if he tries to free himself, watch what happens. Michael Jackson. Remember, Michael Jackson owned half of Sony. He's a problem, right? Prince fought the establishment, literally changed his name to the artist, and then got his music back. And then was going around telling everybody, I'm not going to do any music, any collaborations. I'm not going to produce anything. I'm not going to write you any songs. I'm not even going to do a performance or go on tour with you or any of that stuff unless you own your own music. Everybody Prince did anything with, that was the requirement. You better own your own music. Prince was a problem, right? Johnathan Majors is a person that got to a certain level of power and had on contract, a contract that said, you can't even make more of this character ever throughout Disney, Marvel, whatever, unless I say so. He's a problem. Now, whoever wrote that contract probably got fired, right? Yes, that to be honest, that's not a smart move, business move. If you work for a Disney or somebody. But for Johnathan Majors, for him to be able to say, I'm not doing this unless I can make it my own, and it will be my own because nobody else will ever do it unless I allow it. Even though there's probably an age to the contract or whatever, but that age is probably decades from now. That means that if they try to redo it, 50, 60, 70, 80 years from now, then possibly somebody can do it, right? This is a cultural issue, right? I know I'm bouncing around to other people. You can go to other people on their platforms and listen to them tell you about Johnathan Majors and stuff. And if you want more of the details as far as what the exact things he was charged of, because he wasn't charged for the big stuff, but the little stuff, and he's probably not going to serve much time if he serves any time at all outside of his home. Probably won't be much, right? We know all this stuff, right? But they ruin this man's career, and they do this quite often. Like I said, however you feel about Bill Cosby's accusers all came out and said he didn't do it. However you feel about Michael Jackson's accusers came out, they wrote it on paper, on wax, before they went out and tried to redo that thing after they did that whole, what was it, Surviving R. Kelly, I think was the name of it, that they tried to do a version of it with Michael Jackson, like a Surviving Michael Jackson type thing. And they never said in the whole thing that there were 3 boys that Michael settled with. Probably, some of you say he probably should have never done it. But there were 3 boys that Michael did settle with. All 3 of them wrote out and admitted, right, in writing, in their own hand, that Michael never did it. And on top of that, one of them felt so bad about it that he actually unalived himself. And that's when they found his note. Like, this stuff that we know, but you get to a certain level of power, we will mess you up, especially mess around and be with a white woman. I'm not even here to go into should black people and white people be together. We're having honest dialogue. Amen, somebody. It's honest dialogue. If we're going to act like this stuff doesn't matter, then we lying to ourselves. The Johnathan Majors thing is not in other words, thank you, Holy Spirit. That Johnathan Majors incident is not an isolated issue. It's not, right? Get too far ahead of yourself and watch this and mess around and be masculine, right? Mess around and be masculine on top of it. Mess around and have it to where people are, right? And be masculine and then mess around and have white woman. Oh yeah, we looking for white tears at that point.
They made an example of him.
Yeah, he's an example. Right? If you get to his level, this is how you're gonna act. Right? Now be with whoever you want. You have a decision to make. You're gonna do. I'm not even gonna really address that tonight. We've addressed it before. I'm not even really gonna address that tonight. You do you. I'm just saying, be careful about the system you're in and make sure. That's why we always talk about culture. You better make sure culturally you are sound in what your culture is. And if whoever you get, I don't care if it's black and black is with, right? White and white, whatever. You better know culture. Because there are certain things that people can't handle because it's yours. Now, this is when it gets into an iffy conversation. This is when people don't like this part of the conversation. This is when people say, all right, this is when you might go off the rails a little bit, but we just going to be honest, right? Honest conversation. Educational purposes only. Honest conversation. Let's go. Let's get it. You ready? If you get with somebody who won't even admit that this is a regularity in society, how long do you think you guys going to last anyways? And like I said, let's say, because y'all going into black versus white automatic. Let me make it clear in this. Let me just give you one that doesn't allow us to say I'm being reverse racist. A black person and a black person get together, and the black woman comes home and she keeps talking about, when I go to my job, everybody makes fun of my hair, everybody makes fun of my hips, they make fun of my lips, they make fun of my skin color. I do all this stuff to make sure that I do makeup on my face to lighten my face. I'm doing all this stuff to exercise so that my hips don't stick out that much, and so I'm not as thick or whatever, or voluptuous, right? And they don't make fun of me for that. And then I came in and Julie, she got a BBL. And you got a husband, let's say you're her black husband, and you as her black husband are like, baby, you're just making too much of this. It's not that bad. How long you think that's going to last? And if it lasts for a long time, that's going to be very toxic. Let's use your terminology the world likes to use. That's going to be extremely toxic. That's toxic behavior. That's toxic thinking. Right? If you are, once again, black husband, black wife, if you are a black husband and you're going to do all this stuff, and everybody says when you raise your voice at all, you're aggressive. You always think everything needs to be done your way. You're always talking about being respected and being heard. Nobody needs to be heard that much. You hear that all day. You go to your job and you train other people to always take your position. You're supposed to be docile where other people get to be masculine. And then you come home and you tell your black wife about it, not white wife, black wife, black husband. The black husband comes home, tells his black wife his experience, and she says, babe, you're just going to have to work through that. Other people, and she starts telling you stuff from another culture, or stuff like, other people come from other countries and they just make it work. Why can't you just make it work? Right? If you really wanted it, you can get it. I believe it. And then she thinks in innocence, I believe in you, baby. I believe in you, honey. You can do this. And am I saying we should make an excuse for us and say that we can't do anything because the white man, once again, that's not what I'm doing. I believe in accountability. Right? I believe that we should have some things different in our society so that we're not necessarily depending on others anyway, so they can stop saying y'all are lazy anyways, because we don't have to depend on them to be barometer of our work ethic.
Talking about somebody minimizing somebody else's experience.
Yeah. and people are minimizing our experience, right? But if you come into two people that don't have the same culture and definitely concerning stuff like this, it was only a matter of time. And so a lot of their friends, Johnathan Majors and whatever the girl's name is, Lauren something or whatever, I can't remember what her name is, but they're like, oh, well, they had a really toxic relationship. Well, this is when I want to take our leave on this. And thank you guys who've been praying for us or whatever. We're almost there. We really appreciate y'all, and pray for us as we continue to, do what we need to do. By the way, I meant to say this earlier. I apologize. I will look out for tomorrow at some point, or maybe even late this evening, but look out for tomorrow to get stuff on Women in Red, information on that. As far as I'm going to put different things out, or we're going to put different things out. We'll try to get that out like tomorrow or early tomorrow. I'm sorry, tonight or early tomorrow, or maybe a combination. You'll start seeing different things on different platforms. Also, too, tomorrow, I already said I was going to be on an hour early instead of 8. I was going to be on at 7. Make that more like I'm going to try to be on about 6:45-ish. All right, so about 6:45 a.m. Eastern New York time, I plan on being on, and we'll probably be finished, I believe, around 8:45. Yeah, 8:45, because we got to be on the road by 9, right? Yeah. So I'll be on about 6:45 and literally it will be over. There will not be the music. Will start playing just like we kind of did today. 9:45. It was over. 8:45 tomorrow. 8:45 a.m. Eastern New York time. It'll be over. So if you want to get up with us, you just have to get up early or just catch the recording. I will attempt to do Q&A tomorrow, but obviously it's not going to be able to be. Well, you know what? We'll do Q&A tomorrow. And I'll do the same thing. Instead of it being at 8, I'll open up the phone line. At 7:45, we'll open up the phone line. So if you're on with us early, you might have a chance to be one of the first callers. We did have some of you who actually had certain questions, comments, and concerns that we didn't get to first, but I'll wait until 7:45 to start with those questions to make sure that everybody's on. And then, we'll start wrapping things up about 8:35 or so, 8:30, 8:35. All right. But yeah, so just wanted to put that out there. Look for that information. Also, look on the website. We've updated the calendar, so you should have calendar stuff up there taking you through 2024 for the rest of this year. And so just keep an eye on that, as there might be some slight changes that pop up, but for the most part, it should be pretty solid throughout the rest of the next year. But yes, as we get ready to take our leave, last thing I want to make sure that we address too is the toxic behavior and the toxic relationship, like we were talking about. Solomon, can you please turn it down? All right. So, in toxic relationship and the toxic behavior and stuff, if you're dealing with toxicity in your relationship of any kind, because this was a great point that was brought up, that it was from a woman's perspective, and I didn't, I probably wouldn't have thought about this part because I'm just thinking, law, he did, she was wrong, boom, 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 right? But something that they brought, something that we were listening to two sisters earlier talk about, and I agree with wholeheartedly. Like, I had to think about it for a little while to kind of wrap my brain around it. If you're in a toxic relationship of any kind, you need to do a couple things. Number one, you got to recognize that it's toxic. And these were sisters that said this, by the way. And I guess there was a brother that said this too, actually, we were listening to. But these were sisters that said this first, that I heard it. Be aware of when you go into another level, there's certain things you don't need to bring with you too. And so that's why culture is important. Like, if you're going to be the king in a culture, remember the Proverbs 31 woman. That was a story where we started always at Proverbs 31:10. Proverbs 31 verse 1, it starts off where there's the mother of a king, right? So she's a queen, right? Or what we would call queen, right? She's Ayazar. She is the helpmeet of Ayazar, right? Or of the king. And she is in this position to where she runs a lot of stuff and multiplies what the king does. And so she has her son now, who is now the king. And she, with this experience, not only as his mother, but also the experience of royalty and somebody who helped to run a whole kingdom, she says, these are the things that you're going to need as a king. You're going to need somebody to do all these things. You're gonna need somebody to multiply, somebody who helps you, somebody who takes a vision that you have and helps it to grow and this and that. You're gonna need somebody who has a certain grace and civility, right, and serenity about her, a peace, a calm, and things. And then she says, in verse 10, she says, "But who can find such a virtuous woman?" And then she starts to outline, this is what you should be looking for. So husbands, when you look to find a wife, you can look to Proverbs 31:10 on, because that's the mother of a king saying, if you're looking for my daughter-in-law, this is what I need you to look for, right? That's how you should actually take that verse in stride, right? That's how you take that verse in stride. On top of that, you need to recognize that if you're going to be royalty, if you're going to be a royal wife, if you're going to be a royal husband, if you're going to be a royal priest, whatever the case is, some of your relationships are going to have to change. If not, some might have to go away, at least for a season, or certain boundaries might need to be made, and you might have to make it very clear to certain people in your household, in your relationship, in your group, in your family, in your whatever. You might have to make it very clear that there's certain things that you don't move in anymore, and that you can't allow, and that you can no longer accept. See, that's a problem, Johnathan Majors. Can I be honest? Now, this is when we got to also, too, Johnathan Majors, we got, and who knows if Johnathan Majors will ever see this. However, let's just say he does. Johnathan Majors, I need you to know, bro, this is where we got to hold you accountable. Because what were you thinking being with somebody that was so toxic that you would literally run away from them from one county to another? It felt like. I'm watching this thing. It seemed like Johnathan Majors, literally, I'm not even joking. It seems like he had to have ran at least half a mile, if not three-quarters of a mile. Like, I'm not even joking. He had to have ran at least half a mile. On camera, we can see him running. There's like a whole thing on YouTube. You can literally watch this man running away from this woman. And what kind of woman were you with that makes you need to chase her? Or let me just, by the way, once again, I don't 100% know. Let's say Johnathan Majors was the biggest jerk in the world. Little girl, what makes you be in a relationship with somebody where you feel you would have to chase them for a half a mile, three-quarters of a mile? Right? I don't know. Like I said, that's why I made a point in the beginning to say, I'm not here to say who's a jerk, who's not, who's a better person towards the other. We were just breaking down law and talking about something that's consistent in the United States Corporation and how they use law against our diaspora.
He was in a full sprint.
Yeah, he was in a full. Yeah, it wasn't even in a light jog. Because when I heard run at first, I'm thinking, okay, this man ran down a sidewalk, and probably I'm not thinking he's sprinting. No, this man was pretty close to sprinting. Like, he in shape. Remember, he did some boxing training and stuff. This man in shape, he ran. And every time I started thinking to myself, she gonna stop. She gonna run out of gas. She found she found another what do they call it?
Second win.
Yeah, she kept finding the second, the third, the fourth win, because it looked like she was gonna stop a couple times, and she kept on going though. And I'm like, what has these people together, right? But there's a toxicity to that. Like, this is something that you got to ask yourself, because a lot of times what we do is somebody makes it and we just, oh, this person made it because they were ready for it, or this person made it because they got their life together. No, this person made it because, look, we just having a real conversation, education purposes only. People make it because they get past the casting couch. People make it because because they're willing to do some shady stuff. People make it because they just have a look. People make it because somebody says, I'll make you make it. Hey, some people have made it. Isn't the one who plays Indiana Jones' wife and the one who played Lois Lane, wasn't she married to the person that was in charge of Indiana Jones? Something like that. So people make it or ended up marrying them. So people make it for many different reasons. That wasn't Steven Spielberg, was it?
I don't know.
George Lucas might have produced it and wrote it or something. Steven Spielberg directed, something like that. I don't know. But people make it for a lot of different reasons.
I know this is all kind of assumptions, but what if they were never actually in a relationship together? What if she was his handler? What if he was just trying to get away from somebody who was controlling him? But anyways, that's too hypothetical.
No, what if? It wouldn't be something that's not new. That's not how he's
really trying to get away.
Yeah, so that could be a possibility. So let's see. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sorry, no buts. Excuse me. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's and so on top of that, excuse me, we need to ensure that we're not dealing with toxicity to that level. You got to recognize some of you might be going to a Johnathan Majors thing in your life, right? And in that Johnathan Majors situation in your life, I hope you realize it. If you're going through like a Johnathan Majors situation in your life, you better be ready to cut off some things that are toxic. There's some people that you met that they shouldn't be going with you to where you're headed. And definitely if you're dealing with certain things, now this is the thing that happens. We try to make it, and we know, and to make it through a lot of different situations, we feel like we must eviscerate or get rid of our culture. And this is when people feel. Matter of fact, we were really talking about this heavy for a while. We were talking about this for hours today. So I keep going back to what we were talking about, but we really were having a long conversation about this. I want to throw this in there too. One thing we kept on talking about is Johnathan Majors got to a place where he was alone.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like Tiger Woods got to a place where he was alone. You ain't got no people. You're not black anymore, right? So now you white, you Combination or whatever is acceptable, and now all of a sudden white people mad at you, black people mad at you, Asian people ain't really messing with you anywhere, and now you Combination, nobody's Combination except you. What you gonna do? You're alone. Johnathan Majors was talking about that he wanted. Literally, I didn't know this until today. This was crazy. My wife and I both were like, "Wow." He said he told the girl. Right, they got him on recording during the relationship that apparently he told the girl that he needed her. Who did he describe? He needed her to be more like Coretta Scott King, and that's not her culture. Like, do you guys comprehend who? Like, you guys know, a lot of you who are listening. Not only are you aware of who, or like the individual or the name that goes with Coretta Scott King, but you recognize the culture. Like, I don't think people recognize this. It's like when Denzel Washington was asked for the movie Fences, when they did this, they took the Broadway play or whatever stage play, and they made it into a movie with Denzel, the one that was famous play, and even people like James Earl Jones and others had done the character. Actually, James Earl Jones, if you really want to see that play done well, watch him do the character when he's younger. Second to none. Like one of the best things you'll ever see. He's amazing in that role. Anyway, though, when they did Denzel, and then they asked him in the movie, they asked him, well, why is it that it had, and it was, once again, they sent a sister, they sent one of our own to try and question. And so what's one of her questions? Why did they have to have a black director for Fences? And what's Denzel's response? Denzel's response was what? He said, well, the same reason why you had Scorsese do, what was it, Goodfellas, and Spielberg do, what's the movie that they did? Schindler's List. And he goes, the same way that they had to do that, he's like, he was like, it's like a hot comb in the, I'm quoting him, he says, it's like a hot comb in the morning, right? Or a hot comb, during the day, whatever he said. He was like, if you say hot comb, he was like, a whole bunch of us in a certain generation, we know what that is. We know what that smells like. We know what that feels like. Even if you're not a girl having your hair done or whatever, you might have been a boy who accidentally put your hand on it one time. You know what that is in your house. You know how important that is, how dangerous it is, and it means something different than anybody else would. So you're going to present a hot comb different than somebody else would, who's like, this doesn't even make sense. Or you're going to present it differently than everybody else. Because why? And he uses the word because it was culture, right? There's certain things that you're going to have in your life, right? Because of the culture, right? But when you get rid of that and you end up by yourself, who's going to be there? Like, you got people directing your life, directing your people, directing your relationships, directing your job, directing your business. And what is the culture? Right? People that are helping me and in certain positions or whatever, I can't just let anybody in. Like, I can't let somebody who doesn't even believe in the Bible be in a position at SOC, especially be like an assistant of mine. What sense would that make? Somebody doesn't believe that I'm an Israelite, but I say, you go ahead and you run Passover this year. What sense would that make? Even if they did everything to the letter, it's not going to be done the same way as somebody who actually lives the culture. There's no offense to anybody. It just is what it is. Right? Like, you say rice and beans to somebody. Well, what culture are we talking about? Are we talking about Ghana? Are we talking about Nigeria?
Central America.
Are we talking about Central America? Is it Puerto Ricano? Is it Mexicano? Is it Jamaican?
Because they would say rice and peas.
Right. They say they wouldn't even say rice and peas, right? Rice and pea, right? It would be a whole different thing because each culture looks at the same. They look at the same meal, and it might even cook it very similarly. But there's a little bit of twist here that you go, oh yeah, that's not even the same, right? Like I've talked about this with music before. 1-1 co. But in Spanish, you see that you just call it clave, even though we have a clave over there too. But you just say, oh, that's the clave. But then you put that, you say, oh, okay, but wait a minute. What if I have a, what if I have something else? So if I go like this, like let's say this is the bass drum, right? And I have, right? That might be more African actually, right? But if I add a little something too, which is still African, but I do this. Right? Still the same people, but where they move to. But if I go, right? Oh, still the same people, but we're talking about South America, right? Somebody who recognizes culture, it's easy for me to go ahead and follow. It's like when we talk about dialects, and people say, well, why are you worried about dialects so much? Dialect tells me where you're from. If you have more of a southern drawl and it's a little slower, you're probably more inland. If you have less of one, you're probably getting closer to like Alabama-ish, Georgia-ish. No, actually, no, not even Georgia. It's just Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. They kind of have the same drawl, even though Georgia's a little closer to Alabama, obviously, but speak British. And if you were to actually fast forward South Carolina and Georgia, it would sound like it comes, right? If you talk about a proper Georgian, the debutantes that have the white gloves and all that, and you listen to how they speak, then guess what? Like, compare it to English speaking and just speed it up. They sound the same, right? But I can tell where you're from because of dialect. I can tell where you're from because of culture. I know enough about your culture, right? And so Johnathan Majors, one of the major, and forgive me for the pun, right? However, one of the major things Johnathan Majors did wrong was that he did not look for somebody to carry. He gave up on himself. So now here you are, Johnathan, and here's something that happened. I thought he actually was going up with another white girl because I didn't remember who Megan Good was. But Megan, my wife, reminded who Megan Good was. At first, I was like, Megan Good? I was thinking it was the Transformers girl. Megan something else.
Megan Fox.
Yeah, okay, Megan
Fox. They look alike, actually, Megan Good, to me.
Okay, I don't remember.
One's black, one's white.
I don't remember what they look like, to be honest. I don't remember what Megan Good, I remember she was married to the pastor, but I don't remember what she looks like. But a matter of fact, I don't even know what movies and stuff she's in. I don't know if I've probably seen it, maybe seen something, maybe, I don't know. But I say all that to say, now all of a sudden, Johnathan Majors is going through issues, and now all of a sudden he wants to get with a black woman, right? Somebody who knows his experiences and can be there and knows what it is to be in the public eye and to have done the right thing and yet still not have their relationship work, and now is getting in trouble for it, and they're the one taking the hit for it and stuff. But you're alone now. It's too late, right? Like, you should have had your culture and your civilization and your people around you way before. Now it's too late. This is why the Bible declares it is not righteous, it is not tabah, that Adam be bad, alone. Remember, in the word alone is a compound word, all in one, alone, all in one. Also, though, in the Hebrew, it literally means bad, B-A-D, it means bad. So to be bad is to be alone. If it's bad, it means it's alone. We think bad means it's sin. Bad means alone. And really, if it's not tabah for Adam to be alone, then it's actually sin to be alone. And yet we have all these people who keep making themselves alone. Bill Cosby. Look, some people would say great man, this and that. I'm not here to tell you where you should blame that argument. Watch this. Bill Cosby, you started putting yourself in a position where he was telling off his own people and wasn't even trying to help. He was getting into the whole thing that, hey, black people are bad now, this and that, or whatever, but wasn't, he was giving money to certain things, but wasn't really giving actual advice and steps to do stuff or whatever. And his ridicule got to be to a point to where even people that respected him didn't want to hear from him. Guess what? Now you alone. Proud of you, you're going to do the CBS thing, but you put yourself in a position where you got yourself out there by yourself, and you was doing the stuff with these women all these years. And look, I'm not caping up for you, because at the end of the day, even if I don't think that you forced them to lay down with you, at the end of the day, guess what? You still was doing, and even if it was an open relationship with your wife, you were still putting yourself out here to be one thing or whatever. You got yourself so alone that now, guess what happened? Like, you had to do some time.
law protects rights.
Yeah, law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. And my wife said this earlier too. She said, give her straight credit for this. This is something that she, I've been trying to give her a lot of credit tonight, but specifically for this, she was saying that this is one of the reasons why we have biblical law. She said, because if we don't have biblical law, like if we don't follow the law, then it's easy for somebody to come and here's, like we talked about with the Satan, the accuser of the brethren. Now here he comes and he goes, oh, okay, yeah, you were in this situation. Even if it only looks like it, you can be accused for it because it looks like it. Doesn't mean that you even did it. It might be wrong to say to you and accuse you of this stuff, but because you decided to do it, or you decided to even be around it or be like something that looks like it, now you're accusable. So, so I think we talked enough about it. Other stuff on there, I think you guys can find out more information. There'll probably be other information that comes out. That's why I'm glad that, the Holy Spirit was really in my speaking tonight, and she was saying, make sure you kept saying allegedly. So these are things that are, most of the stuff is alleged. Some of the stuff that I told you is fact, though. Go read up for yourself or go watch whatever videos you need or ask whatever questions and sit down with stuff. I don't have all the information, which is why I steer clear of certain things or whatever. And by the way, if I didn't get to your comment tonight, it wasn't because I didn't want to. It's just because I can't read them from where I'm sitting right now. However, thank you guys. Appreciate your prayers. We're almost where we need to be. So we're going to finish up this last leg of the trip. Make sure that we are 100% packed and everything and ready to go. And I will see you guys 6:45 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow. And we will be finished by 8:45. When I say finished, the latest you will see me, even if I haven't finished with a closeout yet, at 8:45, everything's got to be turned off, and we got to make sure that we make it to our next destination. So, thank you all. Appreciate you. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for your prayers once again, and we continue to solicit them as we go forward. We're asking for help for the family still. And so if you're able to send something to help and be a blessing to them, we still have one is not finished with where they're going to do, but kind of coming out of the woods. The other one is still in need. We're not at where we need to be able to help them. So if you can continue, we have with the second family, especially we have to the end of the year. So if you can be a blessing to them, we thank you in advance for doing so. We appreciate you though. We honor you. We hope that you guys continue to do great, righteous, marvelous things. Don't forget, once again, this Saturday, or I'm sorry, actually, no, never mind. Yeah. So I'm forgetting because so many days going together, so much stuff we've been doing. Yeah. So tomorrow we'll be on 6:45 a.m. Eastern New York time to 8:45 a.m. Eastern New York time. If you want to get up early with us, if it's too early for you, whatever, feel free to go ahead and just watch it on YouTube, the recording, or on Facebook, or listen to the podcast. We will try to do Q&A tomorrow. I will do my best. We'll see how it works out, but that's the goal. On Saturday, we will have the live session. I think we have somebody in place besides myself, but still you can come to Kofi_43. We'll try to make sure that we have it on all the platforms for you all. We will have Shabbat service. I'm not sure if we're doing, I guess we have Signal. We're doing Shabbat school.
Yeah, we have Signal.
Okay, so we'll have Shabbat school. All that will be on. And main course, December 23rd, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. Sisters and brothers, especially for our sisters, but sisters and brothers, same way that the sisters supported us brothers, we want to be there for them. December 23rd, this Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. Women in Red. Start looking for reminders on different platforms. Looking for the link. I'll leave it. Elder Maya also has the link for, I believe, the program. And also I'll try to make sure that, and in that program, it also has something for the tea ceremony, Ataya tea. Those of you who've done Women in Red with us before, you already know what that's about. But it's really simple. The ingredients are really simple to go ahead and get. And we know it's late tonight, but there's a possibility tomorrow and Saturday that you'll be able to go out if you're able to. I know some people treat Sabbath differently, so if you need to try and get it tomorrow, but there's a possibility you can go ahead and get your stuff together for the tea. So matter of fact, sometimes I even show it at the end of the live session. So if you've ever seen that, that's actually what that is. But I will make sure that I show it tomorrow. I don't have it set up for today. So I'll make sure that I show that to you guys tomorrow. We'll make sure that those things are put out on all the platforms. So look on Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube. And if we put on YouTube, by the way, look on the YouTube channel and scroll over to YouTube posts. Okay, sometimes we put them in videos, but you'll always find them in YouTube posts. So when we have an event, look in the YouTube posts, you'll see all the paperwork or all the all the stuff for the program. Thank you. So thank you. We thank you all. We appreciate you, and hopefully we shall see you tomorrow. If all goes well, and if all goes well signal-wise, we've been told that everything should be straight for us to use our signal and use Wi-Fi and everything when we get over there. So if all goes well, we'll see you briefly probably, but we'll see you tomorrow evening, and tomorrow in the rising, tomorrow evening. And pray for us as we're traveling. We're praying for you. We know that a lot of you guys are getting on the road too and are flying to different destinations and traveling by car. And even if you're going to celebrate Christmas, even though it's not our thing, we still want you to be safe. So we pray to that the Most High cover you and protect you. And thank you guys for listening again. As always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya. But Liz would like to say we'd be honored. Actually, she was on tonight. Kindness order, or her voice was on, so she was on. But we give our honor and praise to the Most High for her. And we're thankful and grateful. Thank you to those who were able to meet with her for the meeting. So everybody should be on the same page for Women in Red for Saturday. And yeah, thank you again. Also, too, we will put out a Google Calendar invite, and I'll try to put those links on the Google Calendar invite for you guys as well, so you guys can be ready to join us. Okay, so just look on all the platforms and everything, and we're praying for Yehovah to move mightily, and I'm excited about what Yah's doing in this season and how He's holding us, carrying us, and moving us, and we're thankful and grateful. So, as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time and being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. And if I don't see you for some reason before late tomorrow, early Shabbat Shalom. All right, take care. Peace.